Timothy, welcome to Halloween Daily. Thanks so much for hanging out and talking to us today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm excited to talk about your feature film, Till Death Do Us Part. I watched it just the other night, and I really had a blast with it. I think it's a fun new spin on kind of the old runaway bride idea that kind of turned on its head with some John Wick style violence and some great fight scenes and stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about how you first got attached to this project and what initially attracted you to this story?
Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you for taking the time to watch it. I appreciate it. We had a blast making it. I was sent this script by a writer named Chad Law a while back. But I looked at the script, but I didn't actually pick it to do. And then Natalie Byrne, who I was looking to collaborate with on something, she actually sent it to me and said, "You have to read this." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I think we talked about this." And so I looked at it and I saw that it had like a Def Leppard quote in there and, from Love Bites. And I'm like, "Oh man, this is cool." And it read a little more, straightforward, not as genre bending and comedy when it came to me. And I thought about it and I said, it's cool, but we need something to make it stand out. And I feel like there's just so much opportunity here for some comedy, for some gory deaths, for some like just really taking this thing and just bending it and let's just twist it, And so that's it came to me like that. And then I thought about it and I was like, yeah, let's rock and roll.
And like you said, it is kind of a genre bending experience. It starts as a very kind of traditional wedding movie. It's how it feels in the first 10 or 15 minutes. And then, of course, it starts taking left turn after left turn and gets crazier and crazier. But, without spoiling anything, like we say, it's basically a bride. She runs away on her wedding day, and the groom sends essentially his 7 deadly groomsmen to find her and deal with her. So we get to watch her go through the evening and encounter each of these guys in different ways. So obviously, I mean, the stunt work, that was one of the major components of this film, I think, that I was really impressed with. And because there's a lot of it, like I said, she's encountering all 7 of these groomsmen and throughout the film. So can you talk a little bit about that and how you guys created and kept the sequences different, never too repetitive, and how that came to execution on the day as well.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's like kind of like, you talked 7 groomsmen. It was for me, it was like Snow White and the 7 dwarfs, if the dwarfs wanted to kill Snow White, and it was that was the idea was in general, it's a challenge when you have, a limited amount of space, limited amount of time, and you have to do these fights that are interesting. They have to be different, but they also have to flow with the script and they have to match your location. In independent filmmaking, the writer writes something, and in this script, for example, there was a river, there was a boat, there was a basement that was down below, so I had the challenge of, incorporating this, which is why the dirt bike comes in for escape, the rooftop, having her travel along there. So I had the challenge of doing that, but then the fights were much, and originally more hand-to-hand with knives and, other weapons and stuff. And we had such talented people. I said, let's do this where we have a lot of hand-to-hand, but then let's get some brutal kills in there. Let her grab whatever she's got, shovel, chainsaw, doesn't matter, knife, anywhere she needs to use it, however. And we just kept that stuff elevated. Natalie and DY did a lot of stuff with previes and, practiced a lot of the choreograph. Arnold Chan, who's a legendary stunt guy, he was our stunt coordinator as well. And, everybody worked. But when we got there on the day, I said, guys, you're going to hate me, but, it's not going to work in this room. It's not going to work doing this. We have to make this where whatever we have a bed here. We need to use it. We have a bookcase. We need to use it. We have these things. We need to make this where, if she's hiding behind this door, how would she get out? And her idea has to be escape and survival. So we started incorporating that stuff. And then Natalie is a ballerina naturally, so she could do all of her own stunts. And that was amazing because she's like, what if I just backflip off of this, the bookcase? And I'm like, you're just going to be able to backflip? Yeah. 2 tries and there it is. She backflips over the guy and, holding on to him and can hit him. And, I'm like, DY, what if you body slam her on the bed? And, he body slams her. And, having these performers, number one, who are able to do that. And then having Natalie, who's able to do her own stunts, really opened up the world to me to be able to go, wow, I can kind of be a kid in a playground. And I can kind of do whatever I want, like you got a camper here, you can slam her into the camper. Because she can throw kicks, punches, use knives, do all of that stuff. So it really allowed us to do it, but we didn't want to get stuck in a world of choreographed action, swings, punch, miss. So we opened up with one fight that was a little more traditional when we started, and then we went just completely haywire and ape shit. And that was the idea as the bride kind of, as it goes and she's out of ideas and it's more survival and it's just crazier, it just gets wilder with the kills. And as she becomes more, whatever, it gets wilder and funner and stuff like that. And it was also the idea of keeping it light, making the 1950s music play and having a good time.
Yeah, and that's another aspect, that 1950s soundtrack, which is kind of, it's kind of different for a film like this. You don't normally get that, but it does add that kind of lightness and levity to it. And while you're watching, these hardcore fight scenes and some of these gory death scenes, and you talked about Natalie and the fact that she actually brought the project to you. So I guess I was going to ask if she was always going to be the bride, and I guess it was never a question then, since she kind of sought this out.
Yeah, she found, because I told her, I said, look, let's find something to do together that would be cool, that can do, that's going to be good though. It's going to be fun and it can be different. Because one of the challenges in the independent space is how do you do a movie anymore that stands out, that can get a release, that's going to be a little bit different, and just make, something memorable. And that's been a challenge for me, is, trying to always find my own independent voice, doing something I want to do, something that's different. And, she found the script and said, look, I think I could kill this as a bride. And I could immediately see her in it as soon as I started. So that was a no-brainer, for sure.
Well, she definitely did great. And that is so impressive, like you said, that she was able to do all of her own stunts. So there was no cutting away. And obviously your stunt coordinator, like you said, did an amazing job of setting up all those fight scenes and keeping them all so different. And also we see that Jeffrey Riddick is a producer. I know you've worked with him before as a producer. Very cool to see a genre favorite like him involved in this. And like you said, supporting independent film.
Yeah, no, Jeffrey's amazing. And, I immediately thought about him when this film came around, and I said, listen, I want you to produce this with me. And, because I'm going to up these kills and I'm going to do cool stuff. And I'd love to just have your, eyeballs with me to just, let's creatively produce this thing. And, he came on board immediately. And, I can't count the amount of times I look behind the monitor, I'd be there watching and I'd run over to the actors and he's just dying laughing and busting out laughing and being like, this is so cool. And, he doesn't really do a lot of action either. He hasn't really got into that world. So he was just blown away when he was watching them do the scenes and all the stunt choreo and stuff. He was just like, whoa, adding all of that into, a horror element was cool for him. So it's fun.
It's definitely a fun movie. And like you said, those action scenes, I feel like that's really what, elevates it, from that independent, you feel it's obviously a low budget film, independent, but those fight scenes and that choreography really, I felt elevated it, and audiences are going to love that.
Thank you, man. Yeah, we had a good time. It was, from Cam Gigante to Jason Patrick to Orlando Jones, Pancho Mueller, the rest of our cast was phenomenal, and they let us have a good time. And everybody, I can say, really, really trusted me on this. There was a lot of times we went off place, or I tried something completely different, and everybody really just rolled with the punches. And that trust is so key, because I was like, look, guys, this is different, but I want you to do this. And they went with it, and that was cool.
Very cool. And like you said, they all did amazing, all those guys. And I loved seeing, that was a pleasant surprise for me to see Jason Patrick in there. And he just knocked it out of the park in his role. I thought that was one of the best characters in the film, actually.
Yeah, he had a challenge because he's kind of the anchor in a way
Yeah.
of the movie. The rest of the movie kind of is wild, and we have this home invasion element, and then he is kind of the backstory of, he is the ghost of the future, you know what I mean, for them, and and what they can become, that couple can become the Jason Patric characters couple. And so he kind of gave the backstory and gave us the groundness of the movie. And so cutting back and forth to that, from Rockin' Robin and somebody getting stabbed in the where, to then going to this serious scene, was a challenge. It was hard, to figure it out. And there were moments where when I was in the film, I'm like, the momentum's slowing down. I got to go to this. I need that. But I think Jason did such a good job, and all the actors in that scene, of really keeping you engaged. And he's so powerful as an actor, and what he can bring to the table just by talking, that he did just such a great job. So that helped a lot, because without his performance, being there and having a really strong anchor like him, it was already hard, and he did amazing, but without that, it would have been really, really hard.
Absolutely. He knocked it out the park. And last question before we go, if you'll indulge us for Halloween Daily News, where every day is Halloween. What does Halloween mean to you? Do you celebrate? Do you have fond memories celebrating as a kid?
I love Halloween, man. I love the entire season. It's horror movies. The one thing is that I feel like we work and grind so much, and it gets to about that fall time, and it starts getting dark earlier. It's around that time I always get the urge to make a scary movie, or want to do a scary movie around that time. And just having the whole excuse to watch horror movies is great. To be able to just go to the theater in LA, they play a lot of old school horror movies everywhere, in the cemetery and the park, being able to do some of that stuff and just celebrate the genre. It's a reason. I also I'm a sucker for giving away candy to kids. I really like that a lot. And at my house, there's usually I think I have probably 800 kids, and that's not a joke. I got about $300-400 worth of candy, but it's a joy to be able to give it out, see these kids. So I really like that part, and I love doing all the events for Halloween, man. It's whether it's Universal or whether it's any of them. I mean, I think I basically hit every single one last year, from It's Not Scary Farm to Universal to some of the other ones that they're crazy, a lot of escape rooms. So I love Halloween.
Awesome. We love to hear that. Well, I can't thank you so much for your time and for talking to us today. This has been great.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. It's great talking to you as well.
And instead of saying goodbye, we always like to say Happy Halloween.
Thank you. Happy Halloween to you. See you next time.